Okay, so quick disclaimer. The first half of this is the original audio from my Imperium retrospective that I filmed way back last month in November. I ended up not finishing it for a couple reasons. The first one being I didn't know how to make visuals for the thing. And the second reason being halfway through recording the audio, I got bronchitis and lost my voice. But I really liked how the first half of the audio came together. So I finished it up and put it in a bit of a podcasty type video with no visuals, just so you could hear it if you would like to. So if you'd like to hear my complicated, nuanced opinions on the second season of the Imperium in a very rambly format with a black screen, fucking lucky you, I guess, because here it is. Hope you like it. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the Imperium. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that I went batshit fucking insane when the first season of the Imperium dropped last year. I was going bonkers the entire month of October, and rightfully so, because it was, in my opinion, one of Eric's best written series. This video isn't meant to be like a deep analysis like I originally planned, but I think the writing of everything was just fantastic. So much so that I thought it would be hard to top. And when the second season inevitably came around, I obviously had to listen to it and see my thoughts. And did season 2 top season 1? I'll be honest with you. No, it did not. My feelings on season 2 are actually very complicated, and that is why I wanted to make this video so bad in the first place. So yeah, let me get right into all the little details. Section 1, the format and the time skip. So I feel like one of the things that makes the vibe of season 2 so much different than the first one is the formatting. And I know this sounds really boring, but trust me, it's not. We're gonna get into it. The first season was very individual character based. There was character interaction, but it was mostly kept to a minimum. Season 2 was not this way at all. It was actually very inversion style, and I don't feel like it served things very well. The inversion was a very chaotic event. Obviously, it was a tragedy, so it makes sense that we had to jump so frantically back and forth between characters to know what was going on with everyone. I mean, when you don't know if people are gonna live or die, it is that way. And yeah, the Imperium is kind of that way, but not to the extent the inversion was. A lot of the jumping back and forth was mostly, these two characters are talking to each other, and then we're going to jump to a completely separate, not relevant conversation of these two characters talking to each other. And it was weird and confusing and kind of pointless, and I just wish there was less of it. I feel like things would have been improved if it was streamlined a little bit and we didn't have so much jumping back and forth. Because it wasn't in an A-B plot kind of way. It was more in like A, B, C, D, E, F, G fucking bullshit. Like, I don't know how to explain it. The things weren't connected and didn't need to be cut like that. It was weird. Especially Damien scenes. I have a lot to say about Damien scenes. Like, it would just be there, and then we would go on, and it would be kind of pointless. Like, why did we cut the middle of this fucking scene with Damien suddenly being here? Like, couldn't we not have put that a little later? It wouldn't have changed anything. And I would say it would have been good in the last 2 episodes, especially when things were getting really serious. And it was, but a lot of those scenes were unnecessarily long. I don't want to pick on that Asher and Brachium scene, but my god, it was like 20 minutes. And another thing that the inversion had that the Imperium hasn't is having the character logos on the screen when they're talking. This was great in like the Damn Crew videos as of, I would say recently, not really, where a character lights up when they're talking. I wish we had that here. I understand the stylistic choice, but like, listen, I haven't listened to any of the werewolf character series. I still haven't. I'm very sorry. I want to, but they're so long I haven't had the time. And it was a little confusing for me trying to figure out who was talking, especially because characters in the Imperium sound different than canon, obviously, so it made things very difficult for me. Okay, next point is the time skip. So when writing a second season, there's really 2 options. for what you can do. Either 1, you start right where you left off, or 2, you have a time skip. And I'm not completely against having a time skip at all, but having it skip a year because the last season of the Imperium was last October was not a good call. It was too much. And there are one of 2 reasons for this. First reason is I feel like we missed a lot of character development. The specific example I'm going to give here is with Vin and Freelancer. So they had been separated for a long time between seasons. And when they were meeting up, I originally assumed that it was the first time they had saw each other since they got to the academy. I guess that wasn't the case, because they immediately started kissing. I was surprised. Maybe this is another writing problem and not the time skip, but I do feel like we missed their entire relationship development, which sucks, because Vin was kind of the main character of the first season of the Imperium. He definitely isn't second season. Second season, it was Asher. We'll talk about Asher. But it was so sudden, it genuinely caught me off guard. And that honestly happened quite a lot throughout this season, which isn't very good. The second reason I didn't like the time skip is because I feel like it made us miss out on one of the most potentially interesting plot lines that we could have had in the entire Imperium, and that's angels. I'm seriously annoyed about this. Damien and Angel had one of the most interesting dynamics in the entire Imperium, and because of time restraints, we didn't really hear about it in the first season, and that was fine. With the second season, I was really hoping we would get more from them, and we sort of did, I guess. So to recap this very briefly, Damien reveals in, I think, his second appearance in season 2, that he is such a little shit because he is mourning the death of Angel, who he had executed for crimes against the Imperium 4 months before. So you're fucking telling me that Angel went directly against the government while literally being with the king, talked shit about him, tried to start a revolution, and was executed, and I only get to hear about that in a tiny fucking cutscene in passing? Are you kidding me? I am so annoyed about this. So much, especially of the first half of the second season, is just talking. And it's a lot of Asher talking about murdering Alexis. He talks and he talks and he talks about it. And for a long time, basically nothing fucking happens. And you're telling me all of this bullshit has happened between seasons and I don't get to see it. I'm annoyed. I'm fucking annoyed. The fact that Eric squandered literally the most interesting character in the Imperium for no reason is infuriating. Why didn't I get to see all of this espionage, releasing of documents, directly talking shit about the king while he's around? This execution! I didn't know the Imperium was straight up executing people for crimes against the government, but they are, and I don't get to see that? Are you kidding me? That's straight up criminal. I don't care. That's criminal. That's the worst thing that the Imperium has done. I want to see the execution. I want to see the bloodshed. I want to see the drama. Okay, I can't keep going on about this, but my God. All right, next character we're going to talk about. Star of the show, Asher. So, sort of a disclaimer, I'm not very attached to Asher. Haven't seen most of his videos. I saw him in the inversion, I saw his aftershock, and basically nothing else. So, I'm a little biased. However, I don't feel like most of Asher's scenes were necessary, especially in the first half of the season. Not necessarily saying that he gets too many scenes, although I do kind of feel that way. I just feel like a lot of his scenes are really repetitive and trying to build up hype that wasn't needed. This whole Alexis murder plotline is weird, and I'll talk about it a little later why I think it's weird, but the Imperium is basically already made for people who are big fans of the redacted verse. They're already well versed, they know things, so mentioning that we're gonna hear from and kill Alexis, a character we have never heard the voice up until this point, and has been hinted at since 2020, is already a big enough cause of hype. We didn't need so many little scenes about Asher discussing this with, I feel like, every single fucking person he knows. That's an exaggeration, of course, but it took way too long for Vincent to be like, hey, I want you to murder Alexis, which did make sense, and then actually the murder of Alexis happening. Like, it took like 4 episodes. It took way too long. It shouldn't have been made into like a moral dilemma. Killing Alexis is not a moral dilemma. Kill the bitch. I am not qualified enough to make a comment on Alexis in canon. I do not want the entire fandom to execute me via firing squad. However, in the Imperium, no question, go fucking murder that whore, you know? I don't know why Babe thought it was such a moral dilemma that, like, the girl who literally murdered Asher's fucking mate should die. Like, of course she should. She's horrible. This is literally a world-saving scenario. Also, I don't have much to say about David and Asher being canon in the Imperium. People had already been calling it in season 1. I'm very happy for them. I mean, I'm not happy. I guess not, because David's dead. But I'm happy for you guys who ship them. I'm keeping that in. So to further anger any David and Asher fans, I think his whole, like, weird trauma dump on Brachium was weird and unnecessary. I mean, it wasn't a trauma dump. Brachium was specifically asking about it. But, like, why did it need to be there? We already had him talking about it to Babe, and then he talked about it to Milo. We already had the scene. It wasn't, like, more sad. I don't know. I just feel like that scene should have been shorter. It was, like, it was over 20 minutes, and it was in the last episode, which was, like, 56 minutes. It was a ridiculous length, and we didn't need to waste all that time in the last episode on that. We should have had other things. There were other things to be acknowledged. I don't know. It seemed tedious. I'm very sorry. It was tedious. Just realized I forgot to put a tag in for the Asher section, so section 3 is about Milo. Honestly, I don't really have any complaints about how Milo is written. I think he was great. I really liked his overclock parallels, to the inversion and all that. It also brings up some cool lore questions, which I won't talk about here, but I do love those. Also, I did just specifically want to say that I really loved the scene with Asher and Milo discussing David and the Shaw Pack and why Asher didn't want to change the name. It was so good. One of my favorite scenes in season 2, no doubt. I just want it to be nice because I feel like I was an ass in the last section. I thought it was really good. Wonderful. Okay, next up is Alexis. I'm mixed on her because on one hand, she kind of acts as like a goofy cartoon villain, which I don't know if is bad or great. I actually kind of got a kick out of it. Like, you're telling me this girl built a maze where she traps human families so she can kill them for fun? Like a stalking animal? Look, that is so goofy. I adore it. Also, whoever voice acted her, I don't remember who it was, she was wonderful. She did such a great fucking job. Loved hearing from Alexis officially. Will we hear from her in canon? I don't know. Doesn't matter to me. That was great. I feel similar to Alexis on how I felt about Imperium Adam. Like, you're a goofy motherfucker. We got just enough of you and then you died. Perfect. All I needed. I love it so much. I know some of y'all were, like, really hating on Imperium Adam and Vincent. Like, that video made you feel all gross and icky. That was not me. I was having the time of my life. I'm sorry. Can't relate. I was cackling like a motherfucker the whole time. One of my favorite videos. I don't even care. So next is the Academy. So, all the demon characters. I love them, and I do wish we had some more interaction between them. honestly, I feel like interaction between them was weirdly sparse compared to all the interaction Asher was having over there on his side of the Imperium. I honestly have less to say when I enjoy things. Vin is the love of my life, and he's wonderful. I liked when he called Avior like a heartless bastard or something. I didn't expect it, and it was kind of slay. Was he correct? No, but it was fun anyway. I love Avior in the Imperium. I like Avior and Vega's little conflict. I liked Vega's line about being the general when Avior's the strategist. That was cool as fuck. Speaking of, Vega in general is just cool as fuck. This doesn't need to be said by me, but now I understand why Eric was so obsessed with Imperium Vega, because he's fucking cool as hell. His dynamic with his listener, cool as hell. I love him. Not much to say on him in that regard. When it comes to the plot line of the whole Academy side of the Imperium, I do have a few complaints. I don't know what to say about what happened with Lasko's character. I'm not sure how I feel about it. One of the reasons this video took so long is I don't know what to say about Lasko, because Lasko in season 1 was slaying so hard, and now he's an incel, and like I understand why he's an incel, but I don't like that he's an incel. I do think his little thing with sucking all the air out of the room was good. I liked the whole conflict with Vin. You know, do I go save Freelancer and risk this mission or not? Cool as fuck. But I don't like the way Lasko was written. He was icky in a way that I don't think we needed. We already had an icky motherfucker in the Imperium, and it was Cody. We could have had Lasko be a little bitch in a different way. I mean, this isn't as cut and dry as my opinion on, say, Angel getting actual screen time. But, you know, the reason people liked Lasko so much and the appeal of him in the first season was that he was, like, mysterious and vaguely threatening in a way that was very interesting and different from how he acts in canon. And if you keep in mind the context of the situation, it makes things a lot more scary. So, let me go on a little rant about Lasko. Lasko is running this academy, you know, where he is bringing in human-borns, and people get their powers around puberty. So most of the people that Lasko is talking to, trying to recruit in his little Imperium propaganda cult bullshit or whatever, are like 12-year-olds. And if you keep that in mind when listening to his first appearance, like, you know, back in season 1, it's really bone-chilling. Like, Freelancer is old for the people he's normally talking to. And I assumed his sickly sweet demeanor was meant to be in like the way a preschool teacher lectures a little kid. Not a weird incel way. I'm gonna be honest, this is one of my biggest criticisms of Eric's writing. I do feel like once he sees that people are liking a villain too much, he really tries to amp up how shitty of a person they are so we all back off. It's honestly a really bad trait, and it doesn't lend itself to writing morally gray characters. Not saying Imperium Lasko was a morally gray character, but like all of the morally grayness that Marcus had was fucking butchered at the end of. People liking a villain you wrote doesn't mean you're a bad writer. It means you're a good writer. It means you're a good writer. I don't know what to say. All right, time for the elephant in the room. The ending. The last 2 episodes, really, because they're both insane. I'll get into all the really wacky stuff later. First, we have to talk about the culmination of Asher's whole, arc, which is meeting Brachium. So, very quick TLDR. The Shaw Pack wants to find whoever the vampires are all invoked to so that they can kill them, or I guess just ask them not to, because it seemed like Asher was surprised that Brachium had to die. Anyway, besides the point, they want to find that person so that they can free the vampires. So Asher talks to Vincent, who knows who it is, and then Vincent gets Asher to kill Alexis as a dumb side quest so that he can find out who it is, and it's Brachium. I assumed it would be Brachium. I don't think that's a hard prediction to make. If it's gonna be anybody, you'd think it would be someone immortal, because if that person dies, it ruins a big part of the Imperium government. So even though they hate demons, You would think it would be someone immortal, and yeah, it is. So brachium is, or at least was, a demon. This is the least shocking information I have gotten in my whole life. Now, because of the nature of the Imperium, I actually assume that Deathwalkers, and probably the river as a whole, doesn't exist there because of that whole line in the balance where it's like death is natural but the river is not, and it's the Deathwalkers' job to guard the river, presumably because maybe the sovereigns are trapped in there. And obviously the sovereigns are just trapped in Aria in the Imperium, so it's not very necessary. And ignoring all that lore nonsense, I do think seeing Brachium as a demon in the Imperium is super interesting, especially as a Serenity demon makes a lot of sense for him. And I also really like the whole idea that he has a fear of death and how that would have related to him going to work for the Imperium government for a sense of safety. I think that's fucking cool, and I like it. It's a shame we don't really get to hear about it much because Asher talks about how he misses David for like 20 minutes, even though we already know that, and we already had that scene like 3 times. Besides the point, Brachium was really interesting, and his sacrifice seemed very noble to him of his life, but it turned out to be a shit idea. There are 2 things left I can talk about, and the first thing is the vampires, and the second thing is avior. And we're gonna do the vampires first, because I think they're just so goofy and fun. So, Vega and avior have been having this little argument over their new vampire pals that they had acquired. The vampires kind of just show up on the doorstep of the academy, and they're like, hey, we want to work for the resistance, and avior doesn't trust them at all. But Vega's like, it's fine, I can just read their minds and stuff. And I guess Vega either did a shit job, or he just thought he had more control than he did. Which I don't understand why he wouldn't have that control, being that he has just been feeding on all these feelings of torment this whole time. And, he's super powerful. So, last episode, the resistance goes and attacks the Imperium Spire, and by some sudden unlucky disaster at the same time, Brachium kills himself, freeing the vampires. When the Shaw Pack had this goal of freeing the vampires, they assumed it would just mean everyone would be free. That's not true. This pyramid scheme does not work that way. So now that Brachium is dead, the authority just goes 1 rank down, meaning that it goes automatically to motherfucking Samuel Collins, mask maker little shit, and it goes to his head in about half a second, and he goes right in the spire with his new army, and he turns Damien, and the scene happens. I don't need to explain to you the scene between Sam and Damien, but I straight up gasped. I was so caught off guard. That was insane, and it happened very quickly. So, this is fucking goofy. This ending is goofy as hell. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't think it's in a good way. I mean, I do find it pretty funny that all we needed to take over this tyrannical government is a cowboy and his work boots. Amen. But, come on. Was Vega not supposed to have control over all these vampires? Weren't they meant to be his army? He didn't do jack shit about it. For being a general, he sure did nothing once they left the academy, for real. And if we're gonna have some whole vampires taking over different parts of the Imperium, how is that even gonna work? Because most of the vampires that we know are dead. This gave me very sudden understanding on why we spent so long killing Alexis. Alexis is Sam's maker, and if Alexis wasn't dead, then she would have gotten this power, and that would have been too interesting. Also, Vincent died like the episode before the finale, so we don't get anything with him either. There aren't that many vampire characters. Are we really gonna have a little turf war in season 3? Is there gonna be a season 3? I don't know. I assume so. We'll get into that. This was just insane. Slay for Sam, but it does seem quite... I don't want to say it seems out of character for our homeboy dentist, Dr. Samuel Collins, but in season 1, he seemed like he was just doing what he had to do. Like, he seemed like a little evil shit, but not to this extent. The power went to his head immediately, and I don't feel qualified to comment on that, but I don't think it really worked. It didn't. I don't think it worked. And just like I feel like Eric forgot about Vin in the last 2 episodes of the Imperium, I forgot to talk about him in this section too. So, throwing this in here, I waited so patiently those last 2 episodes to hear from Vin after his little conversation with Freelancer, where Freelancer wanted to go run away with him in the woods. Like, I thought something really bad was gonna happen because Vin wasn't there. And nothing happened. Like, you're telling me they're just fine? I almost don't believe it. Like, you're telling me, like so many fics I've read, Vin and Freelancer are living their little cottagecore dreams in the woods away from society, and it just all went well for them in the end? This is a miracle. I was preparing myself mentally, I would say over the entire last year, for his inevitable death, and it never happened. What a miracle. If something bad happens to them in a potential season 3, I will be upset. I will forever be cocky about this ending. Like, sure, all that bad stuff happened with Sam taking over the government and blah, 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 but my man is fine. I can't say much about it besides that. Like, he's fine. That's a miracle. Echo, I love you. Echo is the #1 Gavin Freelancer shipper. I'm second, but Echo is first. Echo did everything for us. If you're a Gavin fan and you hate Echo, how do you hate Echo? Especially after this. Echo gave us everything we've ever had. And you know it. Sorry if this section in particular seems like it's a disjointed disaster. That's because this is kind of the way the video is formatted, and I don't really have any other choice to explain it, because there's like 4 different plot lines going on at once. So next we're talking about Avior, and boy, do I have a lot to say about Avior's section. So, TLDR, need to remind myself what happened. It's been a month. So, Avior goes to Rift, and Starlight is like, Avior, no, I want to come with you. And Avior's like, what the fuck, Starlight? No, you can't go through a rift. You stupid bitch. You're human. You will die. And Starlight jumps in it anyway. Like, right in front of Vega, too. And he's just like, damn, that was preventable. And then leaves. Which is so goofy. This is where we get into our whole parallels for Avior in canon. So basically, they get trapped in the meridian. Avior's like, what the fuck? Why am I trapped in the meridian? Starlight's freaking out. Avior's freaking out. And then I assume Elatum and Minara start fucking talking to him. They like possess Starlight. It's like these 2 voices, and they're like, we were one, but now we're not. I assume it's Elatum and Minara. Okay? That's my blanket assumption. You're gonna have to deal with that. They're like, hey, yo, we needed to possess Starlight because Starlight's a human. We couldn't possess you because we're too similar and it would fuck us up. Anyway, we're fucking hungry. We need to go grab a sovereign so we can eat them to prevent the meridian from falling. And Avior's like, okay, and takes them to Aria, and then they take, like, all the sovereigns, and Avior's like, what the fuck? You took all the sovereigns, how are we gonna eat now? And they're just like, well, you're gonna have to learn the rift and eat from the humans. And then the meridian's fixed. What? Okay, so I like the concept of the meridian being sentient. And I like Elatum and Minara. I think the whole thing with it is interesting. This is not how I expected it to go. And it's not necessarily a bad thing that it didn't go how I expected. But the fact that Elatum and Minara are straight up capable of just talking to Avior in this way is funny. I think it's really funny. Like, imagine God starts, like, possesses your crush and tells you that they want to eat the other gods. Like, it's really difficult to draw any connections to canon from this because of the difference in circumstance, and also, I think it's dumb, lore-wise. So here are 3 reasons why I think this ending is really dumb. Number 1, this implies that rifts are just open fucking portals that not only everyone can see, a human can just jump into. Now, if a human jumps into a rift, they get ripped apart and die. This is a well-known thing. Why is there no magical barrier to to prevent a human from just jumping into a rift. Because there has to be some barrier, right? Because if there's not, wouldn't the arcana from Arya just start flowing into Terra and destroy the place? Because obviously that's not what happens. So why is a human just allowed to do this? Are they allowed to do this in this one circumstance? Because Eladim and Minara made it happen? Because they need starlight? Why? This is silly. Number 2, is this implying the sovereigns can possess humans? Because why is that the case? Isn't Eladim and Minara meant to be like the consciousness of the meridian? Like, they sacrificed themselves to create it so the realms wouldn't fuse? Why can they possess starlight? Is starlight special? Is there special connection to magic? Why did they could possess starlight? Because I don't think that's the case. They specifically are like, oh, it's because this one's landborn. That's the phrasing Regulus uses for humans in his little metaphor story. So, does that mean Starlight's special connection to magic means nothing? If so, I'm more of a fan of that than them being a sovereign, because that theory's been going around for 2 years and it's dumb. But still, this is equally dumb. I really wish this was even vaguely explained in any way. Third reason, if this is why the Meridian needs avior and starlight in the Imperium, what does that say about canon? Because the circumstances in canon with the sovereigns are so different that this plan wouldn't fucking work. The sovereigns are presumably either already trapped in the Meridian in the way they are in the Imperium, or they're in the river, maybe? Either way, they're not in Arya for easy access. Avior's probably never even heard of them. He doesn't think they exist. So how could he possibly help with this plan? Surely this must be connected to Vega somehow. Vega's the only demon in canon who knows the sovereigns exist, at least to our knowledge, because he's fucking old as bricks. This whole ending explains absolutely nothing about how this whole circumstance is working in canon, besides that it wasn't Blake's fault, which we kind of already knew. So this gives us no alternate explanation. It just leaves me wanting to bang my head against a wall. So, thanks, Eric. And here's a semi-related question to end it off, because I didn't really know where to put this. Why does Vega know how to rift? And why didn't he tell any of the other demons about that, or teach them how to do that, before the very fucking end of the series? This whole thing, I know I'm supposed to be questioning this, it still annoys me though. It makes me think of the ending of Encanto, where Dolores is like, oh, I knew Bruno was in the walls the whole time. And Camilo is looks at her all goofy. That's this. Vega's like, oh, by the way, I could rift. And Avior's like, what the fuck? Why didn't you just go home? What the hell? And he doesn't answer the question. What are you doing, Vega, you sneaky little shit? That's it. I really don't have anything else to say. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the disaster, and God bless you for listening to the whole thing, because at this point it must be half an hour. If I missed anything that you wanted me to talk about, or you think I'm wrong, you should comment, because I want to hear it, and I don't have anyone else to bounce my thoughts off of, hence the fucking YouTube channel. So, yeah, let me know. I will hopefully be posting a video soon, and yeah, see ya then. Bye!